right, so last session, our party took Linus and went to go see what happened to a train that exploded far in the distance. Um, you guys had a fairly strenuous battle with a greater riftborn of some kind, another mirror, and a group of lessers. You guys saved a paladin of Farrier, who was rendered unconscious during the fighting. Lara and Mitra spent the better part of the evening burying the dead at the wreck, while Alton spent the time he could trying to recall anything and study everything regarding the eye and the shards of mirror. Lara and Mitra had a heart-to-heart about death whilst working. Linus and the paladin and both of the lancing men, both Byron and the other one that was unconscious at the time, all traveled back to the Hearthfinder camp, the Exiles camp as we've called it before. Mitra had a vision of the Lady of the Realms again, this one a little more intense than the last, involving a feeling of great joy, the smell of rot, and a seemingly carefully placed touch or hug. Some black ink seemed to be dripping from her shoulders as she went to rest for the rest of the night. During the rest of the rest, I believe Lara and Alton had to talk about loss and finding meaning in it. And we ended the session with everyone finally finishing a long rest post a hard day's work.
Are we still we're still at the train, right?
You're still sleeping inside the train. I need a history check from you, Alton. I need a wisdom saving throw from Lara and Mitra as well. I need to get my dice ready. Whoa.
13.
Okay.
Alright, what do you need from me again? Wisdom save?
Yup.
Okay, well, I can do that. Can totally click this button.
Button.
Click.
Clicked.
That's right.
Okay. Alton, you said you had a 13 on that history?
Correct.
While you don't sleep in the traditional sense during your kind of stretch of unawareness that you have every night, you go into trance and your dreams are kind of filled this evening with that feeling of being trapped again. You go to sleep and you're very keenly aware of, like, yes, I'm in a trance, I'm in the train, I had this fight. But the thing that seems to be catching your mind the most is this this kind of pervading sense of being trapped in a different way now. While you're not still held by that arcane prison that held you for so long, you've never felt further from home than currently. And you kind of can't help but avoid, or rather have to face, that you may never have that sense of home again. You don't dream per se, more than just kind of have anxiety or, yeah, just tension over the course of your short rest that you have to take. For the rest of our party, I'm toying with a new idea, which is wisdom saving throws being a way of convening, or a way of conveying, bad dreams are good dreams. And for the both of you, the night isn't full of much. It's kind of just an inky blackness of the void with the occasional whispering far at the edge of your consciousness. Be that what it may. Give me 2 seconds. Just realized I didn't start my music, and that is cringe. Oh no. Where's my playlist?
Oh no.
This is an important one. There we go. Yeah. And then one of those. Okay. Morning eventually comes. And you guys awaken inside the car, door shut, having taken the rest as you need. I would say more than likely Lara would be the first to rise. Lara and Alton both around the same time. Mitra having had a busy night. And I would say for the both of you, the first thing you would notice looking around is where Mitra lie on her back, great axe at her side. There is just a small pool of what looks like either black blood or ink kind of pooled around her upper back.
I quickly wake up Mitra. Mitra. Mitra.
There's a moment before she rouses from slumber. It didn't feel restful, at least mentally, but she knows she's not as tired as she was earlier, particularly with all of that bonus work that she so kindly volunteered for. Yeah, she kind of like, what?
Are you okay?
She seems confused. Yes. Did something happen?
Well, you appear to be wounded. I start kind of like checking over her. You got a pool of appears to be blood, maybe. I don't know. That you're
She
laying in.
narrows her brows and like just turns around to look, and once she does see it, her gaze lingers for a moment, and then she doesn't say anything. She just kind of like lying on her side, looks like, and then she sits up and goes through her belongings, and she begins to. She tries to look for the like largest piece of fabric that she might have to wrap it around where it is that she's bled. But that's about it. Like once that's done, she gathers her things. There's a bit of hesitation before she takes her great axe, but she stands up and is pretty ready to go. Without much in terms of words.
I would say for you, Mitra, as you pick up the great axe, the thrum that you feel in this weapon, this special thing that you've found or been given, it is much more noticeable than before. Something almost seems to be amplifying it in this moment. You can consider all of the charges returned to the weapon. And you feel pretty good. Although your back does still burn as it did the night before, albeit a little less so. It's not quite as severe, more than just it's a noticeable annoyance, kind of like a bee sting the day after.
Did I see anything when I was like, went to start to kind of like checking on her before she kind of got up and pulled away from me?
I would ask Mitra, how are you clothed in this moment? Do you wear heavy cloaks that would disguise some of this? Or are you more the typical barbarian, lightly clothed variety?
Honestly, I'd say that she's more lightly clothed, and that's more so because she doesn't really feel the cold as much, being a Goliath, of course. That being said, I would imagine some of this is probably obscured under furs, like something on top, especially if it's got like little pouches that were added to it to do little things. Maybe,
and I'm sure over the course of the month you've probably padded that area some, having been carrying the black eye on your back.
You
absolutely wouldn't want that heavy stone to be banging around and leaving wounds that might fester. I would say for you, Alden, you probably notice the just small flourishes that kind of hang just under where the cloth covers. It does look sort of tattoo-like.
That's what I was gonna ask.
But it's not. It's hard to discern whether it's old or new. It just looks almost like a mix between a wound and a tattoo.
Sort of how a fresh tattoo looks wounded, kind of.
Much more severe, but yes. And it's certainly conveying an idea of some kind, but not in a language you're familiar with at all. But you only see, like I said, small flourishes, the external, very edges of this tattoo that aren't covered.
And then
This mark, if you will.
the pool that she was laying in.
The pool is very blatantly both blood and ink of some kind. But other than that, it doesn't give you much.
Are you sure you're okay?
Yes. No.
You might want to get that checked out. Provide some sort of doctor something that
I said I'm fine. But
I
if it would please you,
I'd hate for
I
you
will
to,
be tended to.
like I said, I'd hate for you to get sick of an infection or some kind.
She sasses you a bit by rolling her eyes, like, okay, well, now that that's out of the way, do we have any more business here, or are we returning? Do we have many hours to travel?
Well, I'm ready to go if you guys are, and I'll take the eye that I've been studying all night, just kind of hand it to Mitra.
Right, then she would receive the eye, and take a moment to get it back in its special carrying configuration. Slinging it for her back.
You would notice that slinging the eye over your shoulders again, there is a deadening of the sense of pain in your shoulders as you put this thing on it. Whether that be through pressure or other means is unclear, but it's certainly noticeable. It seems to lessen the ache. You guys begin to get your things together, gather up what little bits of camping supply you have. You open up the door to the carriage, or this car of the train that you're in, and immediately something is very apparent to all of you. Where the Greater Riftborn was felled is kind of a dark gray blackened space where all of the grass and snow has kind of fallen away to dead stone, in a semicircular kind of oblong shape. All of the gray liquid that you didn't collect from the day before has seemingly disapparated in some way. The most noticeable thing, though, is roughly 20 or 30 feet up in the air, there is a cloud of stars. This astral cloud hangs, a kind of deep purple mixing with red in spaces, but nothing seems to be coming through it or from it. It starts high and is very apparent higher up in the air, and as it comes closer to the ground, they seem to kind of become more transparent, harder to see or to notice, almost like a heat mirage of some kind. But it does sit exactly where you would have left the body.
Does this look like something I may have seen before?
I would say, Alton, roll me a history check. The DC is fairly high. Lara and Mitra, you can also roll history checks, though the DC is significantly lower.
Does a 25 beat it?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Let's see what everybody else has got.
18 plus 7, buddy.
Okay. That was a 16 for you, Lara?
Yes.
And 15 for Mitra.
Okay. The two of you immediately recognize this kind of astral cloud. You saw an innumerable amount of them in Iris Tell last you were there. Although in Iris Tell you saw the sorrowfish coming from them and hunting to a certain degree. For you, Alton, You've seen this once before, but it was more of a passing mention in a book during your upbringing. One of the Pathfinders Guild, or the Wayfinders Guild, they wrote of a space that they went to for a short time while jumping between planes, where almost everything was hostile. It looked like a natural environment to some degree, but the everything in that space seemed to be twisted with some form of magic that was associated with the astral sea. But other than that, you're not really sure what it would entail. You just remember it being mentioned. These kind of hanging clouds of stars in places they shouldn't be.
Can I quickly just take a look at it and then, like, in my notebook, just map out the stars, kind of like their location, like what they look like?
Yeah. Go ahead and... Are you getting close to this to do this, or are you staying at a fair distance?
I mean, I'll stay far enough away to where I can see it.
Okay. Just go ahead and roll me an investigation to see how well you dictate all of that.
14.
Okay. You mark everything as best you can, though you do notice where the normal stars, which is something you were educated on that the rest of this party probably has very little experience with. Normally, stars are locked in place, and people can use them to navigate and kind of figure out exactly where they want to be. You've had to draw and redraw these a few times because the alignment of the stars seemingly never ceases movement. It's a very strange thing, but eventually you find a configuration to draw that is close enough to a average for the positions of each of those stars. Lara, Mitra, anything from you guys in this moment?
Laura will observe what he's doing from a distance.
Wait, what did Laura do? I didn't even hear that.
Just observing.
Oh, she's watching. Okay, she's standing there menacingly. Mitra will get closer, up to where Alton is, and then she gets even closer as she hears into this phenomena.
Yeah. It's kind of got this dizzying effect as you stare into it. It's sort of like the funhouse carnival rides where the tunnel spins. It's a little disorienting, but eventually your mind starts to adjust to it because you're staring at a thing that is as large as the Riftborn was, towering over most of you and much wider than any of you. And it's just this ever-spinning nebula that hangs in the air here in Northstrand.
Once you think she's gotten a good enough stare, she'll take a few steps back and say to herself, well, maybe this is something worth telling the others. Just a thought, just an idle little thought. But with that, she's going to step back and stand by Alton until he's finished his little science drawings.
Okay.
Can I, without taking like a step forward, can I just stick my hand out? Is there any kind of like gravitational pull into this thing? Can I sense
You don't
anything
feel, you certainly don't feel any gravitational magic attached to it. But holding your hand out, you do notice a reaction, a quickening of the clouds inside of it. But other than that, no. Not in the moment.
Can I just go ahead and run a detect magic?
Yeah, it is immensely magical. Though the school of magic is not one you're familiar with.
Okay.
I would say it gives you a sense of deja vu, though you can't really place why.
Okay. Yeah, why not? Just gonna throw a dispel magic at it.
Okay.
See if I can't close it.
Yeah. What level is your dispel magic spell?
Third level.
Third level. You go ahead and force the magic out of this space, and the stars seemingly dim greatly. Go ahead and roll me a d20, friend. This is technically a higher level spell than third.
So
Oh, you
wait,
got
so
a
do I
third
roll?
level
Do I
spell?
roll like I have to roll for a dispel magic? That's
Yeah,
That's
you're
high.
rolling for a dispel magic that's a higher level spell.
okay. So it's a d20 plus. Do I add anything to that?
I have no clue, brother.
That's what I'm reading. Hang on. You cast a spell using it. Oh, never mind. Hang on.
Yeah, for each spell of 4th level or higher on a target, make an ability check using your spellcasting ability.
Okay.
The DC is 10 plus the spell's level.
That's okay. That's what I need to. That's what I need to know. So it's 20 plus my spell modifier.
Yep.
$17.
17. They dim greatly before finally blinking out. The kind of swirling expanse finally disappearing and dissipating entirely. But the kind
Oh,
of...
I'm sorry. 15. I don't know if that
15.
I don't know if that makes a difference. No, I got
no,
it. I added my
it
attack modifier.
still
not
dispels
okay.
the magic.
Okay.
But you kind of force this out of your realm. And the thing you do notice, of course, is the mark on the ground where the body of the Greater Riftborn was stays. The kind of it almost looks like a burn mark, like where a fairly powerful gout of flame would have appeared, but it's not. Anything that was alive in that space, any plant life, any worms or anything like that is gone. Even the dirt that it sits on, the dirt and stone, is deadened and gray, but the actual expanse of stars does dissipate.
Well, that worked. I honestly wasn't sure if I could do that.
Mitra looks at him and says, "Then why did you do that?"
Just wanted to see if I could. Honestly,
So you
I
can-
also didn't feel comfortable leaving there if it's... Yeah, so that appeared to be some sort of portal or rift to potentially the astral sea.
Mitra just looks at you. She's visibly confused. Astral sea?
Lara, if you'd like, you could roll Arcana or History right now to see how much you know about it. Being an educated woman as you are.
Oh, go ahead. I do have a question for Connor, but
11.
An 11. Is that Arcana or History?
History.
Okay. The Astral Sea it has been passingly mentioned under a few of your father's logs, just because there are very, very rare alchemical reagents that are used occasionally. And I mean once in a lifetime type things. But other than that, like the idea of the Astral Sea is a thing that you understand, but really knowing what it is or where it is, not really. You've just seen it in passing mentions underneath logs for certain reagents.
Laura will just not say anything.
Okay. Mitra is drooling slightly, Alton. What did you have to ask me?
oh, sorry. We talked about with my higher drow magic, my detect magic only being once per day.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get rid of that part?
That's a pretty big buff there, champ.
Was it?
Probably not. I mean, you want to make that an at-will spell permanently?
Oh, that wasn't at will. Never mind. Well, you're right.
Yeah,
Never mind.
that
I
was
was thinking it still took a spell slot, but I guess because it is at will. Never mind.
as in, detect magic permanently all the time.
Yeah, without using a spell slot. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, we could take it away and have it cost me a spell slot.
If you'd like. That's something we'll work with later on, I think.
We'll figure it out.
For now?
For now we'll leave it, but we'll talk about it later. Yes.
So, You guys begin finally packing all your things up and begin the long 5-hour journey back to the Exiles camp. Unless you have somewhere else you would like to be. Also, I would say, Alton, go ahead and roll me perception.
15. Rolling
15.
good tonight.
Yeah. I would say, as you guys are kind of milling about after dispelling the astral cloud, you do notice a few extra shards of that same mirrored glass sitting in the train tracks. These are splintered, sundered, very, very small pieces, but they are there. The glint does catch your eye. And I would say for Mitra, you definitely notice Alton probably moving towards them, or at least looking at them, and you would know exactly what they're from. Those were the shards that were much larger last night before you sundered them.
You know what? She's not gonna say anything. She's gonna stare. She's gonna watch as he goes towards them. If he does, of course.
Are you leaving them or taking them?
Oh, sorry, the shards of glass that Mitra was...
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if I don't know if I noticed that they're any bigger than what was already left there from earlier.
No, they're significantly smaller. These are tiny little pieces of glass now, which would be kind of noticeable. I mean, you collected a bunch of glass yesterday.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If it's something I would easily just think it was what I left from before, then I probably wouldn't. I probably would have figured I already grabbed what I needed, or what I thought
Sounds
I would
good to me then.
Yeah, I would just leave them. Wouldn't even bother noticing them because they're just...
All right. You guys begin heading your way back. It's a fairly long journey, but eventually you guys make it there, unless you have any role-playing or talking you'd like to do along this walk.
Mitra has absolutely nothing to say for the next 5 hours. That's it.
Totally on brand.
This is the 5 hours we're walking to camp, yes?
Yes. You guys would pass the hot springs that you stayed at one night before? Or 2 nights before now?
Mitra.
You've ruined her plans because she stops. Well, she would have stopped. Well, no, she turns her head and lets out a very quiet yes.
Laura will look at the hot springs and then at Mitra. When was the last time you showered?
She shrugs.
And she'll like keep looking at like the hot spring and like at Mitra.
Mitra's just like looking at you with just like a what?
You don't feel like you should take the chance?
To do what?
Take a shower.
What's a shower?
A bath.
What's a bath?
Do I hear this conversation?
Yeah.
Yes, you're there.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I hear this back and forth, I mean, just like, what the hell is this? I'm just gonna cast quickly levitate and just chuck her into the fucking hot spring.
Levitate and chuck her into the hot spring? What does levitate do again? Doesn't it have to... If it's an unwilling creature, don't have to make a save? No, I think you can levitate anyone, but I think if it's unwilling, they have to make a save, no?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You had best hope that levitate works that way, Lara. I believe you nearly died and were saved by Shyenda with a levitate spell back at the tower.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh wait,
No, I don't think so. I
it's
think
only
you
a
can do
vertical
it.
up and down, so I can't. It's only a vertical.
No side to side?
Yeah, no side to side. Never mind. And I mean, I could have cast catapult, but it's only up to 5 pounds, so I can't really do that either.
It's just more than 5
Never mind,
pounds. She's
never
a big-
mind.
a big girl. Okay, yeah. I was thinking, I was a bit sussy. She gleans his intent, though. She gleans his intent, and then she just kind of like looks at Alton and looks back at Laura, and it's like, can you speak plainly?
You smell.
No, I don't.
she will look at the drow. Help me out here.
About how much does the eye weigh?
The eye?
Yeah.
The eye is probably 25 or 30 pounds.
Damn it, Connor!
It's not a small object. That's why Mitra carries it every day.
I'm not gonna force her to bathe if she doesn't want to. Also, at the same time, she is wounded, and I don't know if open wounds into the...
It's a very good point to point out that she has no fucking idea what you're talking about because you're beating around the bush. Like you just said, oh, you should do this. She's like, what's that? You should do this. What's that? You smell. She's just kind of like, what? What are you saying? Like she's confused.
Okay. Let me put it this way.
But at the same time, prestidigitation. I just... There.
You remove the dirt from one's person, but you do not remove the smell. Or you can remove the smell, but cannot fix the dirt.
Yeah,
Smell.
she's at the very least.
Smell
probably
goes
the
away.
fight. I mean, in
Problem
fairness, what does she smell like? She smells a bit of blood. She smells a bit like sweat, but I mean, it's not
Hey, man.
like she's a barbarian. She's not a fucking savage.
If it's
Right.
anything close to like Conbio, then we got issues.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds funny.
I don't know.
Have you ever been to a
either.
Comic-Con?
Oh, Comic-Con?
Bro, some of those people are rank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important
Shout
to
out to
remember.
deodorant.
Yeah,
Right?
it's important. Remember, I mean, this is a hot take for a fucking
I
D&D
know, right?
game, but
I don't
your
care.
your diet affects how you smell, right? Or these people at Comic Con or whatever conventions probably eat like shit. Then they are try-hard gamers, and so they smell terrible. Then they don't wash or use strong enough deodorant, so they smell like shit, right? Mitra's a fucking barbarian out there, almost every day, fighting hard to survive. She might smell, but she's not gonna smell fucking terribly, right?
Well, and it's not like your people don't have a way of cleaning themselves up. It's just not the
Absolutely, yeah.
traditional way.
Yeah, that's it. Like, bodies of water are nice, but you've never explicitly said to her, why don't you go and wash up in this body of water? You've been saying other things that she doesn't understand.
Right.
Then she just
It
stood
is
there like,
fixed
what?
now.
She just stood there like, what? Okay, he's prestidigitation. So she kind of like, I smell weird.
Smell better.
Why are you smelling me?
Laura's gonna walk off. When that happens, it feels like
A little
I'm done
unavoidable
here.
and just walk off of Laura.
She just looks at the two of them and just thinks, "Ugh, weird people. And then she'll eventually start following.
We really are.
I just love the context. You guys say a bunch of unintelligible shit to her. You make her smell different and walk off.
Yep.
She's fucking baffled. And you guys just fucked up.
And smell. I think you smell different for like a few seconds. It's not
Is
even
it?
for that long. I don't think prestidigitation is a permanent
Really?
thing.
Yeah, it's not a permanent thing. Like you can
Yeah, let's
taste,
see.
you can alter, you can make things taste different. If I'm not mistaken.
I don't even think
Clean.
you can-
You can clean soil off an object no larger than 1 cubic foot.
It's a cantrip, so like I can literally just do it and be good.
You can chill warm flavor up to 1 cubic foot of non-living material.
Oh, it doesn't
Yeah,
say
I mean-
anything about smell.
Yeah. You can create an odd odor. So it's not even a good smell, it's just an odd odor. Like
Yeah,
a sickly
so-
sweet smell just fills the air for a while.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, yeah. So this whole time she's walking for like up to an hour. It's seeming prestidigitation's active. She's just like, I know this grunts like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And she knows you did something because you have to say something and make a fucking
Yep.
gesture.
Verbal and
so, like,
somatic.
yeah, so she's just looking at you like she's not complaining that much because she doesn't feel hurt, but like, you fucking weirdo. I need to reconsider things. What the hell? You were cool for like 2 weeks. Some shit. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, she doesn't say anything out loud.
You guys continue the beaten path for the remainder of the 4 hours. Along the way, there are a few odd scuffles with ice mephits and a few other local wildlife, but not too much. Eventually, you arrive at the outskirts of the Hearthfinder's camp, and you would notice that the usual defense means are still there. The little girl doesn't seem to be on this end of the camp doing watch this time. And as you guys arrive, there is a short moment where the kind of guards for the exiles, kind of hold weapons at ready before people start to recognize you and you're led inside. Getting back inside, you guys walk in down the main thoroughfare, and you do walk past what would have been your tent, or still is your tent. There's no one in it currently. Pretty quickly, one of the mini defenders here in the camp comes over to Mitra, and with kind of hushed voice, he has to kind of get up on tiptoe to get close enough to where he can whisper to you. He's not quite tall enough, but he kind of comes over and he goes, I'm sorry, ma'am. Two things have happened since you left. Mother Nalini gave the paladin to Kaveri, and it seems that Linus is currently watching the two strange ones, the Lansing men. I don't know which you'd like to go see first, but both seem to be on your agenda.
Mitra nods, and like she's kind of taken aback by the map, and she's like, "Fuck, was heard that before." You're like, thank you. Yeah, and
he gives like a small bow and then kind of like scurries off to get back in position as a guard, quote unquote.
Yeah, she's like, well, didn't see that guy before I left. Well, whatever. She looks at the other two, and she's about to consult them on something before she stops and says, "Well, you've returned. Have you any plans?"
I thought we were heading to the capital to speak to the king.
Okay, so before we depart, is there anything you wish to do?
I believe the dwarf potentially owes me a blade, but I'm not sure if it will be finished by now. Other than that, I think I'm about good to leave.
She slowly nods and says, well, from the incident prior, there is still things to follow through on. I think I will speak with Linus. Now, like, this is a difficult thing. She's like, would you like to attend with me or rest?
I think I'll join you. Sure.
Her gaze shifts over to Lara's. And yourself?
It's not allowed. I mean, I know you're inviting me, however, I thought outsiders are not allowed.
You stopped being an outsider the first night you slept here. You're as welcome as anyone else's. But, of course, the choice is yours. I'm not forcing you.
Well, we have traveled together quite far, so let's see this one through together as well.
She closes her eyes and nods, says, well, let us find Linus then, and well, make more sense of what has happened. And with that, she turns and,
Actually, on second thought,
yeah.
is there any place or anyone within the camp that might have some sort of stones or gems, roughly maybe slightly smaller than the size of the eye, that we maybe be able to trade for?
Well, if you wish to trade,
I mean, I know that's typically the currency around these parts, right? Everyone kind of trades now.
Well, you exchange for things you lack, so I could not point you in anyone in particular's direction, but if you're talking items like this, then
It's similar,
Perhaps the
similar
smith.
to it. It doesn't necessarily need to be like exactly like that. Maybe a smaller, slightly smaller, better condition, not so rough. I have an idea for something I want to work on. That it could
Nitra, if you'd like, you could roll history to see how well you remember who has what in the camp. As last you knew, near to probably 2.5, 3 months ago.
It's a while ago. History. Click, click. That is a 16.
Yeah, you do remember a small detail about Vash, the Goliath tattoo artist. Vash is occasionally known to try and collect up jewels of different sizes and varieties. He uses them occasionally in tattoos to give them an extra glint and glow. Though you would know when he does this, a lot of the times they tend to not turn out very well. He has a surprising dexterity to him, but implanting jewels into someone's skin isn't exactly the best idea.
Yeah, it takes her a moment to arrive at the answer, and that's mostly because she is thinking, "Oh man, I need to get on with my own tattoo work." She's like, "Ah, yes, Vash." She like gestures for someone even taller than her. And he's an important person here, well, at least to me. If you seek him out, perhaps he might be able to help you with what it is you are looking to do. The two of you may share a mind, so to speak.
Sure. You know whereabouts where I could find him?
Like you're saying that, and she's already lifting her arm to point in a direction.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Meet you guys back at the tent.
Yes, if all our business is concluded.
Maybe plan
Of course.
to maybe leave first light in the morning towards the king.
It's something we can discuss when we've reconvened.
Sounds good. Thank you. And I'll start heading in that direction and kind of like ask around where to find that guy.
Okay.
You know
Everything
what I wanna
here
do,
is-
right, Connor?
Yeah, you're trying to find another stone so you can make an attempt at making an
Yep.
eye, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys all kind of go your separate ways, and the Hearthfinders camp is a very fluid place. It changes almost every day. Some new tent is erected, or a new cart is arrived and brought into the fold. And you guys start to realize as you move through this place and go about your daily business, the Hearthfinders have members that come and go completely as they please. There is no such thing as an outsider, truly, as long as you are willing to make the choices that help this group. The only time someone is considered an outsider is if they don't stay within the camp. If they come and bring goods and then leave, you're still an outsider. But once someone stays, this is another home for them. It doesn't take you too long, Alton, before you do find the tattoo artist, Vash, this large Goliath man. Very smooth skin, but he is almost entirely covered in tattoos. He stands probably close to 8.5 foot tall. But he's sitting within this tent that nearly, he almost swallows up the entirety of it just by being seated within it. You head inside, and he kind of gives you this hard eye for a moment. How can I help you?
Yeah. Real quick, Connor, out of character. I don't necessarily need it to be that big, like as big as the eye.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I don't want to try to recreate the full eye and how big it was. If I can create like a smaller one that's like a protective for like a small group one, is what I really want to do.
Okay.
So if I can decipher the runes enough to where I can make a small one that may protect like the three of us as we're carrying it, kind of thing, from being seen. So.
But he gives you the hard look. How can I help you?
Hi. I'm looking for a small gem, roughly, I don't know, maybe this big. I know that's probably costly. Do you have something similar to that I might be able to trade for, or? pay for?
He he kind of his eyes linger on you for far longer than you would like, kind of looking you up and down the fine clothes and everything, before he kind of reaches into this small chest that sits behind him, and it is, I mean, he dwarfs this thing. It would be like a small chest for you, so it's just pathetic for him. But he starts kind of rooting around inside of it, right?
Tiny jewelry box.
And he starts rooting around within, digging and seeing what he can find. He goes, gemstone, probably not. He reaches in and pulls out what would be for you about a fist-sized piece of black glass. It's definitely not either the, obsidian or whatever you'd like to call the black eye. But it is of the same-ish look and finish. It's certainly not been cut by a master jeweler or anything. But he kind of holds it out and he goes, what would you offer in trade?
But I don't have much, and like I said, I'd be willing to maybe run an errand for you or something, potentially, that you might need, to be able to get it. I don't have it written down, like, what it was, but there's a spell scroll. It's a first level spell scroll that I have in my inventory. Yeah. I don't know what the spell it is, because I've never forgot about it that was in there.
You hold it out and kind of give it to him to look over once, and he takes a long, hard look at it, and he goes, I could take this, bud. Do you have free time tonight? I have an idea I'd like to try out. Nobody else is very willing.
Depends on what the idea is.
He shows you his setup, this kind of rudimentary stick poke tattoo area that he's made. And he just goes, if you could allow me some time, I just want to see if I can make this look the way I'd like. Consider that the errand. He's basically, he wants to try testing a tattoo style he's not done before on you. He sees that look of like, oh fuck, I don't know if this is a good idea. And he just goes, I promise it won't be anywhere that would be unbecoming. It could be hidden by clothes if you're not happy with the result, and I could cover it up the next time you need something. If it turns out poorly, but it won't.
No, what are you actually trying to... What's the purpose of the technique?
Where I come from, the people are a little hardier. They handle a long time worth of, being stabbed fairly well, but the people here are a little softer. I'm just trying to learn to be a little more gentle and create more swirling, less steadfast and stone-like runes in the tattoos. If you have a design in mind, we could use that for the test.
Sure. I'll think about the design, yeah. See what I can come up with.
Outstanding. He hands you the stone, keeping the scroll in hand, and he goes, I'll give you time as you need, just come back when you're ready to settle in for a few hours.
Sure. Looking at his stuff. Okay. I'm gonna ask. Is there any way I can, do a small enchantment on, what he had to make it vibrate, to basically make a tattoo gun? You know what I'm talking about?
It'd be a hell of a thing.
Right?
I would say with a high enough Arcana check, you might be able to use Graviturgy to lessen the blows. I don't know that you could create a vibration permanently in his gear. But you could certainly...
That's kind of what my thought was. Well, instead of me getting that too, let me try this. And
you could make an attempt. You have the idea on how to make an attempt, and when you come back later to settle in for a few hours, you might be able to talk him into that.
Instead of him giving me the tattoo, this weird, I don't know that even Alton would know what a tattoo gun is, but...
Yeah, we'll say for the sake of brevity, you start cooking up an idea on how to talk him out of this,
right?
Idea. For Lara and Mitra, where are you guys going right now? Are you going to find Linus? Are you going to find Kaveri? Are you just going to Mother Nalini to tell her you're leaving? What are you guys planning?
Mitra wanted to go and find Linus first and foremost.
Okay.
Because Kiviri is a bit scary.
Also, Lara, are you trying to find Farron, the blacksmith?
Not yet. I'll do that later.
Okay. You guys keep kind of, making passes around the camp until you do finally find one of the nicer tents. This one is notable in that it is very clearly of human design and looks to be like a mass-produced, well-made tent, rather than being kind of homemade from hides and leathers. You come up to the door, and there's 2 guards posted, as there are for most of the Inner Circle members. You get there almost instantly. The 2 guards step out of the way for you, Mitra, and they give a look at you, Lara, but they definitely would not make a fuss about it if you're following Mitra. You guys step inside and find Linus is sitting on a small chair around a kind of wagon wheel table with the 2 very blatantly Lansing Capricite Company men. Their uniforms are a little ragged, but they definitely are they're in much better shape today than they were yesterday. Mitra, I believe you spoke with Byron before he left, the kind of mid-30s human male. He carries a small mace and a shield on his back, and he's just kind of sitting back across the table from Linus. He's not speaking, neither is Linus, but the half-elf that you guys saw being carried by this security agent, Byron, is currently doing everything he can to make his stay here even harder, for lack of a better term. He is threatening to bring them before the king, to expose them for being heretics. He kind of seems like he's trying to talk his way out of things in the least eloquent, most threatening way. Meanwhile, both of these kind of older humans are just kind of watching him with like beleaguered eyes. As you guys walk in, the half-elf looks up at you, Mitra, and he goes, Listen, I'm Xanpleus. I'm a broker for the Lansing Capricite Company, and I'm very tired of staying among you mud-ridden people. I assume you're in leadership, judging by your size. He's just looking at you after saying that, just kind of exhausted. Like, you can tell he just wants to leave, but he can't. So he's just kind of threatening everybody as best he can.
So she stares at him for like a good 10, 15 seconds. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't even, it's just a dead stare as she looks at him. And then her eyes move over to the other 2, and she asks, well, what happened? Did you make your way back fine? Everything went well?
Linus looks up, and you can tell he hasn't slept at all this night. Like, he is just exhausted, bags under his eyes, and he just goes, yeah, we made it home fine. It seems like one of us isn't very happy to be here, but yeah, I was just trying to get some answers before we decide what to do with them. But it seems like our dear friend here has decided he wants to tell the world about the events that went on at the train, and that is unacceptable.
She slowly nods and turns back to the half-elf, and she says, what did you say your name was?
The second you stop speaking, there is not a heartbeat's pause between you finishing speaking and him starting. He goes, I'm Xanpleus. I'm very important in the Lansing Capricite Company, and I will be leaving here and telling the king about everything.
Why?
If a threat this large exists, then I must go. I must tell them so that someone can deal with this. Obviously, you're incapable.
She looks back at Linus and she's like, it's like okay, I get it. I get it now. She like closes her eyes and like just like looks at the ground for a moment. This is the worst place for her to be in because she's just not good with people. And she exhales and she looks back at him. And then she says, well, do you even know what any of that was?
he pauses, and you see the gears turning. But for the first time in your life, Mitra, or maybe one of the first times in your life, you might be smarter than this guy. Like, he knows how to run his mouth, but he's kind of a fucking idiot. And you see him try to process everything, and he goes, there was a lot of fire, and the capricite exploded, and there was a really big thing, but we hid, and I think I hit my head. And then Byron just looks over and goes, yeah, you hit your head really fucking hard. And Zan just kind of, well, either way, I need to tell them about that thing, that big silvery thing, and the old man, he starts looking around for the old man, the paladin. I need to tell them. Something happened, something very important to someone.
Right, so let me get this straight. You are going to go to the king. You are going to say there was something that happened to the capricite. There was an old man and a silvery thing. And what else? I imagine the king wouldn't be very pleased hearing such a disassembled story. Um, may I remind you, by the way, that we, and I'll like point to Mitra and me, uh, did take care of the big creature, that you are safe and alive because of our efforts, which did not require the king.
You see him stumble on his words for a moment, and he finally takes a breath, and he goes, but what if there's more, and I can embellish the story. I could make the king believe that it was something important.
I don't mean to be rude, friend. However, I believe those that were awake at the time have a better shot at telling the story as it was. And we, as a group, and I'll look at Mitra again, are actually on our way to meet the king ourselves. I think we can handle telling the story as it truly went. And
He
I think
takes
that if there's any more of those monsters out there, we can handle that threat too. We got this covered.
he takes a long look at you, and he goes, you think, and he stifles a laugh, and he goes, you think that you're going to talk to the king? You people.
I'm sorry, what did you call me?
I called you people?
No, that part before people.
You.
Okay. Okay.
The king doesn't just hold audience for anyone. Especially not exiles, people without a home.
You called me an exile.
Well, you certainly look like one. You walk with one and you live amongst them.
Do you
Me-
mean?
Mitra raises a hand. She raises a hand and just looks at Laura, before looking back at the half elf, and then she asks, "So you can secure an audience with the king?"
Well, maybe not myself personally, but Lansing does have an ear with the royalty. Yes, I could take our story, explain why we're missing a train.
Now it's our story. First it was you.
Okay. What if I offer you a deal of sorts? Are you willing to listen?
He starts to speak, and you see Byron's hand just kind of grab his shoulder very hard for a moment, and Byron goes, yes, we would love nothing more than to break a deal. Of any kind.
She
A
nods.
deal with these people?
She looks at the others and walks very close to Lara, leans down a bit, cups her hand over Laura's ear and says, I'm not sure about Leonus's plan, if there is one, to get us to see the king, but if that does allow us to get to the capital easier and speak to the king, maybe this be easier.
If he keeps yapping, I'm killing him in his sleep.
Do what you think you must. Then she stands up at full height again and looks at Byron. She says, right, well, why don't you first tell us everything that happened, what you can remember, what you saw, and even before that.
Zan takes this massive breath in, this half-elf. I mean, he sucks so much air before Byron squeezes again, and you hear Zan let this little yelp out of pain. And Byron goes, yeah, I can tell you everything that happened. Our friend here was asleep for most of the ride.
Okay. And in exchange, well, I suppose we can escort you somewhere more familiar.
This whole time, Linus has been very quiet, sitting, just kind of watching you broker this deal, and you being fairly perceptive to the people around you, and certainly mindful of the way that people perceive you, as you are, Mitra. You notice Linus has this twinkle in his eye of like, okay, she's finally starting to get it. It's this kind of fatherly look that you've never seen on his face before. Finally, Byron looks at you and goes, if it gets us out of here, if it gets me back home, fine. He takes a breath, and he goes, we got on the train up north, riding from one of the depots that the company had set up. When we got on, there was, I think, he thinks for a moment, I think there were 2 passenger cars, but they had taken one off of track for repair. A few people had to be left behind. We took mostly the rich, the nobles, and that paladin. The paladin said his journey was of grave import, talked this one, and he kind of like slaps idly at the shoulder of Zan, the half-elf. Talked this one into letting him stay aboard. So it was mostly, well, you know, the rich folk and us and him. We rode for 2 days, roughly. I slept very little. I don't sleep well on trains or traveling at all. On the second day, something was off. Everyone felt a little off. The paladin had been talking, telling stories, being very happy. And even he fell silent. The ride was awkward at least, tense at worst. Something happened. Something that managed to drop most of us for a time. I don't really know what caused the crash, but when I awoke, this one, Zand, was unconscious. The old man was someone else, a force. I drugged Zand back into the car, deeper within. He had gone through one of the windows, so I followed him out, pulled him in. I wasn't out for very long before I locked the car up, and I couldn't help anyone. I wasn't. You could see, like, a bit of regret, a bit of tension on Byron's face that he didn't manage to save anyone. He's not very medically inclined. He's definitely not magic in any way. He says, that old man was kind, weak, but kind. I could have put him on the ground easily. And when I awoke post the crash, he was aflame and killing tens, hundreds of those things, the little oil slick things that he was slaying them in the dozens, in swings that a man his age shouldn't be doing. Did you see, he looks at you very keenly, Mitra. Did you see his eyes? They were, and you see him like choke on the words. It's so much to understand or even believe that actually happened. That old man was just an old man, and then his eyes were aflame, and he was killing beasts in the hundreds with very little effort. I don't care what those things were. I have a life to lead, and I don't plan on going on some damned crusade even for this company. I just want to know, do you know anything about him, the old man?
Mitra closes her eyes and just thinks for a moment. No, the moment before she shakes her head, says, well, I wanted to check on the two of you first before seeing him. She takes a breath before exhales and says, I would be doing you a disservice to not tell you about what it is you saw. She goes on to explain about the Riftborn. She's not going in a lot of detail, but she's giving enough of a general gist that the fact that they've seen you means that, well, you've also seen them, which means they're also going to be a bit annoying. No, she doesn't mince words. She does tell them that they are marked, essentially, and that is what her group do.
Will you, for me, go ahead and roll persuasion, Mitra?
Persuasion? Of course I will. Just a moment. Okay. Silly Rin.
Was that for me? It wasn't for
No,
me.
that was for Kyle.
Wow.
Huh?
Wow.
I didn't hear a DM come through.
Oh, I didn't hear
what you
it
got,
come
Mitra?
through either.
Persuasion.
Because you have streamer mode on, I bet. Kyle?
I sure do. I have Do Not Disturb on.
Ah. So what's this persuasion, Mitra?
That's a nat 1. A grand total of 2.
Absolutely. Byron looks at you for a time after you say it, and the thing that clues you in on his conviction as you tell him he is going to be hunted, as you tell him that things much greater than anything he understands now see him as prey, sets in. The persuasion roll wasn't for Byron. It wasn't for Linus. It was for our dear friend Zan Peleus, the half-elf. As you finish your story regaling them with a little bit of what your people do, and you did say you didn't mince words, but I would assume that you do not tell them every fine detail about their aggressors.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Zan Peleus just cackles. He thinks it is the funniest story he's ever heard. Byron, during this laugh, reaches onto one of his shoulders. The leather armor that he wears bears patches on either side that show the symbol for the Lansing Capricite Company, and he just tears them both off in very fell motion. He takes off this kind of, it's not quite a beret, more just like a head covering that a lot of them seem to wear, although Zan does not wear his. He takes that off, he loosens the neck on his armor, and you see him take the shield from his arm and just drop it on the floor. And he just looks at you and goes, then I can't go home.
She closes her eyes and shakes her head. No. It is a part of the reason why we are out here. Far away from anyone else. Her eyes shift towards the half-elf. And she kind of tilts her head. There's something amusing.
After he finishes laughing, the grin still kind of lingering on his face, he goes, you mean to tell me that the people who couldn't even manage to make a city are the people who kill these things, these hunters from another plane?
Mitra.
I think I need a drink. No, I don't need a drink. You know what? Absolutely. We'll take you to the king and you can tell him your story. And when they put you in a padded room, I promise to send you flowers.
Oh,
But I have a
sweet.
job to do. I have a company to help run, and I will be going back home So if that's all, and you see him like stifle another bout of laughter.
Mitra looks at Byron just for a moment. There's a rare thought going through her head before she looks back at yeah, I don't even remember the half-elf names. I'm so bad at it. Can you remind me of it again, please?
It's Zand Peleus.
I don't know how to pronounce it now. She looks back at Xanthulus and she reaches for her great axe, and she's not holding it menacingly, but of course, in such a confined space and such a giant, big person pulling out an equally big great axe, she just has it. She hefts it down towards her side and gets within striking range. She doesn't lift it. She looks at him, and then she drops the great axe onto the ground, gets down onto her knee, and
You're still head level with him, just so you know.
yeah, yeah. She gets down to her knee and places a hand on his shoulder. She doesn't squeeze it. It's like the softest of touches, and then she says, "After everything you've seen, do you still find it so hard to believe?"
The mirth that was in his form for a while seems to leave, his joy leaving his eyes, being replaced by a fear. He looks at you very keenly. I want to actually see.
It's when you cast Cause Fear.
I cast You Shit Your Pants. He looks at you very keenly, and for the first time you do see like this look of, he really wants to, like, he thought you were joking. He really thought you were fucking joking. And when you settle into this imposing form, he looks you up and down. And now he's not so sure. This actual fear starts to fill him, and he goes, "You mean to tell me I've lived 60 years, and I didn't know that tomorrow I could have just been bushwhacked by a massive silvery thing, and now I can't live life? I can't..." You see regret and sadness, and while Byron wears it as a solemn face, Zand wears it as a child who's had their favorite toy stolen. It is... tears start to well, and fear starts to fill him. You see him shake and sob to himself. Linus at this point looks at the two of them, looks at Byron more than he does Zand. And he just goes, "You can go home. You can leave. We don't hold you here. You're not prisoners. But understand that if you do, I can't guarantee how long a normal life will be led. I can't guarantee that one day you won't wake up to a bump in the night and die that same hour." Byron has given up everything that marks him as a Lansing person, including a sash that he wears now. He's basically shirked almost all of his gear. Though he holds the mace in a white-knuckled hand tightly. He looks at Linus, looks at you, Mitra, and even you, Lara. Looks down at Zand, and he just goes, "Do what you will, half-elf. I won't risk my people. Even if you do think it is a joke." He looks at you, Mitra, specifically. "I'm at your disposal, I guess. I'm not more than a sword arm. I've never worked a field. I've never moved. Was born in Rima, thought I'd die in Rima. In King's Fall, but I am in exile now. Nothing else."
She looks at Byron and nods and says, the things we do for those we care about are often very difficult. She looks back at Xanpolus and he says, I am sorry. We are all victims of this. Each and every person you see here, to some degree, is a victim of this. She applies a bit more pressure on his shoulder, just to, just give him a bit of a consoling squeeze without, like, breaking that shit. Lick my balls. Yeah, then she gets up, taking her great axe as she does, and looks at Linus and says, still, while it is a danger, we may have a way to meet the king. Risks, as you well know, have to be taken sometimes.
Xand is beyond reproach. He openly sobs, hiding nothing in this moment. But Linus looks at you with a hardness and a firmness he of course understands. He goes, I still plan on making my trip to King's Fall, Tsarima, but I figure I'll give them a little bit of time to adjust, maybe a day. He gets up, actually, and starts walking out of the tent for a moment to give Byron and Xanpeleus some time, kind of ushering the two of you to follow him outside. As he gets out there, and you, I assume, follow him,
Yep.
he goes, I'll give them a day, and then I figure we'll head out. In the meantime, I would maybe go see Kaveri. I know how most of us feel about her, but it is maybe necessary to have a better understanding of the situation.
Mitra nods. Says, I agree. She holds insight that I know we all benefit from, even if we don't all quite admit it.
And
she's
some
a
of
bit
us like to
nervous,
sleep
huh?
at night.
Yeah.
You see this genuine, he is, while he is a severe man, he is one of the more human of the inner circle. And not just because he's a human, but just, he isn't quite so severe. Mother Nalini is a person of so many years and such great depth that it's hard to see her as a normal person. Kaveri is someone so lost in the realms of this work that Kaveri is a monster more than she is a human. Or a being, a person. But Linus looks at you and just goes, yeah. You have fun with that, though. Glad I'm not the lowest one on the totem pole anymore. I'm...
nervously. Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
He gives a slight bow and starts heading back in to help the two newly made exiled men.
She gives Laura a very weak smile, like, haha, yeah. I'm looking forward to this. Like, this is definitely one of those moments where she looks really uncomfortable. Not aloof, she's just like, I'd rather not do this. That's what she's radiating right now.
Laura will look at Mitra, and assuming like you are getting up, right? He was trying to help out the shoulder, but you were getting up, so it was like anyway.
Just like on the arm, but yeah.
Yeah, and she will say, "You did good, better than I did. It's probably not. You're probably not used to talking as much, but you have wisdom, and I send for the value, and I'm sure that Alton will do the same. And if there's any problems or anything you need help with, I'll be here.
That nervousness seems to alleviate, even if it's just a bit. Like she kind of like stops, self-soothing. Like the hand comes down from her arm. She still doesn't look too sure, but she gives Laura a nod and she says, "Thank you." It's almost like she's fighting. It means a lot to me. Right. So we should go and see Kaviri now.
Just as we get out of their hearing range,
Yeah.
Laura will stop Mitra briefly by tugging on one of your pieces of clothing. The pixie, what happened to it?
She kind of like looks over her shoulder. Oh, I don't know. Much like other creatures, I guess it followed what called it. I can't imagine the things out here were of much interest.
Did we ever give it a name?
Why would we name it? With a nice own.
I was just curious. It seems so attached to you. Perhaps it was still around you, and I just couldn't see it.
She shakes her head. Well, if it was, then neither have I. But I haven't received any annoying taps or pulls, so either it's sleeping or it's gone elsewhere.
Okay.
You almost sound fond of it.
It's just that it like ties. So I was maybe curious if I guess maybe it could do something, or perhaps it had something of him. Because I mean, at some point I'm gonna have to go home, and telling the people of what happened. I mean, to Mom as well.
There's a pause. Mitra speaks up and says, "This storm in your heart won't go quietly. Don't think it will go easily. You saw the fire tenders, did you not?
I did. Yeah.
Did you gain insight?
Catalin is very far away from me, and I keep seeing the same thing. I see fire. He's close, and then he gets taken away by the monster over and over again, in my nightmares as well. And there's nothing I can do. It's I mean, I'm taking it well. There's more pressing things at hand. So
Mitra raises her hand and gently places it across Laura's shoulder. And you can almost swear that it felt like there were two hands being placed on your shoulder. Though there is very much just the one, from what you can feel. And she says to you, "It is important, but that storm is just as important. I know very well that putting aside how you feel can make other things difficult. She's being very brave here. I can go see Kaveri by myself, if you wish to see the fire tenders once more. And you mentioned your partner and Aiken seemed far. Well, have you tried to let them in?
When I reach out, Aiken gets removed, and Lynn doesn't hear me, or she doesn't want to hear me. I mean, I can try. I can try. It's,
Maybe the issue is that you are reaching out. Why don't you let them in? I do not know what happens, but it seems to have made an effect on you. We all here carry people within us. I think it might help if you try the same. Or not.
I'll
This
give it a try.
is about you. Well, I'm sure you know how to find them. And as with Alton, once you're done, or do whatever it is you want to do, we'll meet up at our tent.
Okay. Are you sure you're going to be okay?
I'll be fine. She's just scary, but I don't think she'll do any harm. But the sooner it's over with, I think it is the better. Well, let me not stay away from destiny, she says half-heartedly before she kind of she doesn't say bye, she just kind of abruptly turns and begins to walk away.
So, Lara, where are you heading?
She will go see the fire people.
Okay. You walk for a time, and you've started to figure out the layout fairly well here in the Hearthfinders camp. The thing you do notice is while everything seems to be rearranged frequently to accommodate the coming and going of people, there's two places that are almost always in the same place. Mother Nalini's tent and the fire tenders' arrangement of sconces, with their few tents that they keep. You arrive fairly quickly, maybe 5 or so minutes of walking. You find the same woman, who you never asked a name of. In fact, you don't know that she has a name. The rags that cover her have all been changed. She looks, well, hard to discern, maybe cleaner or less burdened in this moment. But as you arrive, you see the shoulders sag slightly. She looks at you. How may I help you?
I wish to get in contact with my brother and my lost fiancé.
You see her sigh, though you don't hear it. The rags that cover her face and chest seem to hide most of it. She takes a moment, gestures with a hand to have you sit directly in front of the fire, not but maybe, 6 inches away, not too far. close enough that the heat is almost overwhelming. This kind of large bonfire. I promise no such connection, but we will do what we can, as we do.
You will, I believe it, you have to take in the smoke.
Yep.
Yeah, she will lean in, take in the smoke, close her eyes. Think of both of them, but she will try and think of I more into the time of when we were about to leave home,
Yeah.
and she didn't mention it before, but also she'll think of when she promised her mother to look after Ty, so also of her mother.
Okay. So focusing more on Tyken than
Yeah.
Catalan in this moment. Lara, you inhale the smoke of this flame. The pain racks your body once again. It's a almost familiar feeling a second time, though you never quite get used to that quake that hits your chest as you try to hold in this smoke that's very unnatural in a feeling. Everything goes black for a moment, the world seemingly twisting and shifting. At first, all you see is a road, mud, stone, and ice. Then you begin to see the outlines of trees appear before you, tall pines. You see the edge of the church where all this began. You see 30 or 40 people standing, getting ready to enter the church for a wedding. You see your mother and her soon-to-be husband walking inside, your mother in her very well-adorned paladin armor, although some people would see that as a faux pas. Things get a little clearer again. You see your brother before you in the almost perfect armor. Definitely not road-wearied at all in this moment. But things are a little off. His eyes look tired. His hair is slightly miscolored. The edge of the church that you see is a little out of shape. Maybe your memory failing you in a moment. He's maybe 30 feet away from you currently.
Laura will take a few steps towards him, and she will say, Tyken, is that you?
Hey, sis.
You're real, right?
As far as I know.
I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry.
Sorry for what?
I'm sorry I wasn't able to save you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to save Mom. And
What do you mean, save Mom?
Mom, and she'll look at Mom getting married in this moment. You and Mom, and she'll like smile thinking back at this moment before everything kind of went crazy. And for the first time, she'll actually think that Mom, even in this getup, actually, even if she completely hated Mom, looked good in her actual armor. She'll look at Tyken and she'll say, I lost you both. I ran away at times. I wasn't the nicest to you. I wasn't the nicest to Mom. And I'm sorry for that. I also wanted to tell you that I'm sorry that I couldn't save you. I'm. I don't know if you'll remember, but when we were young, I made you do something bad for once. Actually, I kinda nearly forced you towards it. We both stole horses, remember? You were always mad that I kept my horse and you got caught and you didn't get to keep yours. I've been taking care of my horse. And I've in secret also been taking care of yours. I was hoping to give it back to you when the time was right, to show that as your big sister, I did care for you and look after you, and that I wasn't always the big mean sister trying to protect you from harm, be it in a harsh way or however it is I operate. And I really want you to know that it's okay to let go. It's okay to go into the next life. I will still think of you. I will love you. I will still think of Mom. And I will care for Mom as well. Even though her and I didn't see eye to eye. But it's okay. And I'm sorry I made you suffer.
Kept my horse?
Yeah, I did. At the end of our travel, or should I have come to pass, I had instructed my dad to hand it over to you, so you'd have something to remember me by, something to cherish, something that we, as brother and sister, had from the beginning.
I never wanted the horse. I just wanted my sister.
I'm sorry.
I didn't need you to protect me. You should be sorry. You were never there.
I mean, I tried. I mean, when we started traveling together, I tried. And I know it's not enough to make up for all the years that I wasn't there and all the years that I left the church. I was hoping this trip I could make it right. But sadly, the trip together came to an end. I don't know how to make it right. And perhaps, if I'm lucky enough, I'll be able to make it right in the next life. But I think perhaps being able to let go and go on with Mom onto the next step is better than staying wherever this year is. After this, I don't think I can come visit you anymore. Because if I do, you'll stay here. I don't know where this here is. I know that I have a chance to come see you here. The chance is slim. Very, very slim. And if you stay here, you'll be here in wherever this place is, while you could have a better life, a nicer life.
As you keep saying this place and here, Tyken just kind of starts to look around. Here. This place. This place is where I probably belong.
That's not true, Tyken.
The needles on the trees begin to fall away. The paint on the church begins to peel. The city of Whitespire isn't too far away, mostly a loose imitation of what the city truly looks like. And you start to see fire burning. It spreads through the woods. Everything becomes cinder rather than snow. The snow at your feet turns to ash. Your brother's form begins to twisten, darken, distort, like there's two.
As you start to see this, Tyken's wings, of which you've seen before, bamf out. Instead of the angel's wings with feathers that were towards the end getting darker, you see nothing but now demonic wings. Bat-like. And now I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Wisdom, sorry?
Yes.
14?
Just fails.
Go ahead, Connor.
Your brother's wings emerge from his form. You see now what you could only assume to be someone else, something else, but very much still your brother, very aware of who you are. He knows the story. He knows secrets that only the two of you knew. A fear fills your breast that is sickening. You see a hatred in his eyes, a fire at the back of his pupils. The trees around you now sunder to ashen, burned out, blackened masses. The church itself is ablaze. You hear the cries of 100 people inside, screaming in agony.
Tyken, stop this. You know this isn't you. Stop it.
Tyken, as you reach for the hammer you carried for so many years, mostly ornamental, you pull a long, black-bladed longsword with a red gem at the crest of the hilt of the blade. There are serrations that run along both edges. This weapon reflects your new form in every way, and it feels lighter than a feather in your palm.
Laura will reach for the needle, and with the other hand, she will reach for the daggers. And as she does, facing her brother, she will yet again be reminded by Mitra. And she will release her weapons onto the ground. She, for once in her life, will get on her knees, hold her hands, and pray to Farrier to have her brother have a normal passing, as well as his mother. Her mother, sorry.
You both feel everything shift. Everything that is right is wrong, and everything that is wrong is right. Both of you hear a voice, low and menacing, uncaring and unfathoming, ring out. Tyken, you know this voice. You've seen it many times now. You hear the voice of the blacksmith in the Black City. You know, I knew you were weak, both of you. But I really hoped this would turn out the right way. Use it. Tyken, will you make me a wisdom saving throw, please?
Not gonna lie, I swear, natural one.
Beautiful. As the voice rings out across this sundered vision of the city of Whitespire and its surroundings, you watch what little piece of your brother hangs behind the eyes of this hateful demon, this entity that pretends this farce of your brother. Raises the sword, high above his head, the wings stretching out as he does so. He swings down on you, Lara, and you feel agony unending for just a moment. Thousands of lives. You see the worst moments of so many lifetimes of people. You see, in flashes, the fall of Iris Tell. You even see parts of Moonfall happening. Every moment of suffering that this thing has created or had part in flashes through your mind as you suddenly are shunted from this space. The flame that filled your lungs, that burned your heart, is still there. You feel that pain, but you are laying in the snow amongst the Hearthfinders, sitting maybe 2-3 feet away from the fire now, on your back, finally lulling into consciousness. The first thing that you notice is that the fire tender you've spoken to twice now stands in her space as a blackened corpse, locked in rigor mortis, enwreathed in flame.
So when she comes through, the following thing will happen to her. She'll be like, and then she'll see the fire, and she'll just say, "Help! Help! 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 Some help! Fire!"
You see 3 or 4 other fire tenders, a few of the guard, these defenders of the hearth, rushing forward. They begin throwing snow and buckets of cold water onto this person's body. Quickly, the fire is subdued, though their body still stands, rooted like a tree. They never fold, they don't fall. This burned corpse stands over your form, you now being soaked in water and ash as this person is put out.
She'll be very, very panicked still at this moment in time. And she'll quickly get up after she realizes she's not going up in flames. And then again, given the visions that she's seen, would she actually know where the dwarf is? Was it? Yeah, I believe it was. Was it the dwarf? The one that is
The blacksmith?
Yeah. No, the
Oh, the older man, the paladin.
Yes. Yeah.
You were told by Mitra that he's being held by Kaveri, and you would know where Kaveri's... Kaveri has a very peculiar carriage that she brings along with the exile camp. It's covered in strange kind of mojos and just very strange statues and things that all reflect things that are kind of hard to understand. But also you would notice... you would also notice in this moment that Mitra is kind of walking towards there, and you'd be able to make your way to Kaveri very quickly. you start to realize that in the moment that you breathed in that ash and that smoke, a heartbeat passed for most people, but for you, and seemingly for the fire tender that you've worked with, more time passed.
She will get up and just make a dash to the old man, or wherever the old man is staying.
Okay. You can get back in character as Alton, Kyle. But
yeah.
very good job, friend. Mitra, you see Lara, tears streaming down her face, sprinting towards you, a panic. You would also start to notice some of the defenders and things putting out the fire, and you would even see Mother Nalini kind of poke her head out of her tent and step out into the sunlight, or rather the light here in this space, and look over. You would see the burnt corpse standing in the fire tender's position, that kind of gentle rest, the hands clasped together. But it is, I mean, it's a burnt skeleton that stands there. Very little flesh or bone left. You would also, Mitra, know that the fire tenders are a fairly secretive group, although they, are well within the bounds of anyone in the exiles. You've never seen a fire tender go up in flame truly. Just the simple burns of a vision being given.
Yeah, I mean, so what does Lara do as she gets closer? Because, Mitra sees Lara, then kind of picks in all the things happening in her peripherals, and I think it only takes moments to get a working idea that something's gone not very good. Like what she did, like, so Mitra's like,
She will probably,
uh-huh.
so she will be stumbling sometimes.
Mhm.
You can definitely see fear on her face. And as Laura actually goes past you, she barely passes you, like barely doesn't like run into you. Even though we make eye contact, it seems the fear seems so severe that she doesn't even realize that it's you as she runs past you towards the old man.
So she just sprints past you towards Kaveri's wagon.
Yes. Yep.
Or rather, carriage.
Yep.
Man, Kaveri, she's not going to be happy hearing you calling her an old man. But, yeah, I mean, like, if you're going to do that, she's just kind of like, I want to find out what's happened, but there's also important things to do. So she's going to, I guess, pick up the pace and follow with, because she's kind of like, oh, she's coming to me.
Okay. With Lara and Mitra, you guys arrive at Kaveri's strange cabaret. You guys get to the door, and inside you can hear numerous voices for a time. There's definitely probably a fairly long pause at the door, even with Lara's panic, because Mitra is Mitra. There's numerous whispers going on inside, as well as a lower voice talking, just kind of giving his due, saying his piece. But you can't really discern the words from outside.
Right, is Laura barreling in, or is she just like, oop? It depends on what
She would barrel in. Yeah, she really wants to see the old guy, so she would just be, "Where is he? Where's the old guy? I need to speak to him right now." But in a panic. State.
Okay. You charge up to the door, give the handle a jerk, and it doesn't seem to move. You're outside, kind of banging on the door. Where is he? Where's the paladin? Eventually, after maybe a minute or two, the whispers inside die down. The voice falls silent. The actual lower voice falls silent. The door is opened. You see a set of eyes peek through a crack. Mitra, you're familiar with Kaveri. Kaveri sees you. You're here for the talks, then?
Yes, but like that nervousness is coupled with, wait, what the fuck just happened with Laura? Like, why is she so fucking panicked? And so that's like very visible on her face. She reaches out to place a firm hand on Lara's shoulder. It's not as reassuring or comforting as it was before, but it's kind of I need you to stay in a place for a moment. And she pulls Laura to the side just a bit, not to like fling or anything. Um,
Hey, oh.
she says, Kaveri, there's been something that happened with the fire tenders. She looks at Laura and she just tries to put two and two together.
Mitra, this is not good. I need to get in there. Please. Please let me get in there. Please, you don't understand. Ty, I saw Ty.
Why
I
don't
need to
you?
get.
Why don't you try wriggle free?
Well, she will.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. If you're gonna do that, then like if you do that suddenly, Mitra's not gonna be like, "Oh, hold on there," because she didn't expect you to like run off after she's already been like, "Oh, calm down. You've been more or less rational for a while now." And so if you do like try burrow into the uh Yaveri's place, then I mean, Nature's gonna be like, "Oh."
Go ahead and give me athletics as you try to shoulder through like 7 different locks that are on this door, different chain locks.
What? Athletics.
Yeah,
14.
as you try to shove it through. You get your shoulder in between, start to slip through, and you feel some tension, but you do end up slipping inside as Kaveri's trying to shut the door on you. Mitra, you see your friend just kind of like slip through very quickly. And inside for you, Laura, you see the paladin still unconscious, laying in a circle, a very maddened scrawling around him, kind of filling this interior space. Kaveri kind of lets out this big sigh before slipping all the locks to let Mitra in. You guys see him laying amongst this maddened scrawling of runes. This massively expansive circle has been created around him. He lays unconscious within. A smattering of candles are all that lights this space. Kaveri looks at the two of you and goes, "What is it that you need?"
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Okay. In that case, is it possible for her to just like walk across like the runes and whatnot and get to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just markings on the floor to you.
Right. So she will just literally just don't care. Just she'll of course like dodge the candle lit fires and whatnot. I don't want to catch flame, but she'll just get to the dwarf and just start.
He's not a
shaking
dwarf.
him.
He's
Sorry,
just an old human.
the old man, yeah, and start shaking him like, wake up.
You shake this man's unconscious form. You hear the head smack the ground a couple of times in here. He doesn't seem to be awakening, and Kaveri at this point goes, "Listen, girl, this thing is... He's very not here right now. If you want to talk to him, give me 3 seconds. But first, explain what you're doing."
I need to talk to him. I need to know what happened to Ty. And there's just like tears just going all over down her face. And at some point, she'll finally realize that it's actually Mitra that was there. And she'll say, Mitra, I saw him. I saw my brother. I saw Ty. And it wasn't Ty. And he turned... I mean, we saw him eaten. He should be dead, right? He's dead. He's dead. And I saw him, and he attacked me, and you told me to let them inside me, and he's not taken. He's I don't know what happened. He's my brother.
Mitra is just like looking at Lara. Then she looks at Kaveri.
Kaveri is deeply interested, like disturbingly excited about what's going on. You see her almost like bristling with excitement.
Like it's unnerving to Mitra. Like I've never seen someone this excited. I've never seen her this excited. And she goes on to add, she spoke with the fire and, well, I didn't get the best looks, but it looks like one of them died.
The fire tender. Like,
The
Mitra,
nameless make their sacrifice. It's not a problem of yours.
Mitra, you don't understand. Tyken is not himself. Tyken, he turned in front of me, and I couldn't stop him. And I think he might come back, or I don't know. I think he became one of them, or the monsters, or maybe he's even leading them.
Lara, stop. Take a deep breath.
Mitra,
Yes.
Tyken used to have wings.
Yes, I recall.
Tyken became a demon of sorts. He's not Tyken. Maybe he's possessed. Maybe something grabbed him down there. I don't know. But he's evil now. And I don't know.
Mitra's so confused, like, demons? No, that's not in her field of expertise. like yeah, she might have heard a couple stories about this growing up in particular, but she's never really held much stock in them compared to the Riftborn that are a real in-your-face active threat. So this happens, and then she just kind of looks at Kaveri and asks, "Would you know anything about that? I mean, it's not what I came here for, but
I need
I
him
would
to
say-
wake up and tell me what happened to Tyken.
Both of you go ahead and roll me persuasion. As you see, Kaveri's excitement dims measurably once you ask a question, once you want some information. She kind of,
Okay.
I don't know, shirks back a little bit, the excitement going away, and more of that protective, golem-like behavior.
11.
11.
I've got a 12, but you know what I'll do? I will use a bit of guidance that I may or may not have picked up.
Ooh.
Let's roll a d4, see if we can't do anything here. Fuck was that roll? Okay, that's a 3, so that's a 15 under persuasion.
You see Kaveri shirk for a moment, trying not to give up anything before she finally kind of begrudgingly sighs and goes, "Yeah, I know a few things about demons. You see the sigh hit again. She looks at you, Mitra, that kind of sallow gray skin, the black hair that hangs in a matted mess over her head, the strange animal bones and things that hang from all over her. She goes, "Listen, big one, yes, demons are real, and a few of them might possibly work with me occasionally, and yeah, it's how I learn things, I guess. But not all my things, it's just one of many ways. But yes, demons are real, and that sounds pretty demon-y, I guess. But it's hard to tell, they're kind of formless and do their own thing. It's a lot less, in your face than the normal Riftborn problem. They like to put the commas at the end of everything and make strange demands." She holds up her left hand, and you see her pinky and her third finger are completely gone, without even a scar. She just has 3 fingers on one hand, the thumb and 2 fingers. She goes, "They occasionally make requests, and I begrudgingly give them so that I can stay ahead of the curve. More pressing than whatever that was, I think this man is a lot more than he seems to be. give me just a moment. And she, with a shaky hand, finishes scrawling another rune. And you can see she's drawing over old runes. Like she's been having to redo this spell over and over the whole time she's had this man in her care. Eventually, after 10-15 minutes, all of the runes flash on the floor, this kind of deep red, then they turn to a gold. His body lifts off the ground slightly, where he is very much an unconscious form, just kind of slumped on the ground. It tightens up and kind of lifts him into a straight line. His mouth opens, and he breathes heavily, these non-labored, very easy breaths. And he goes, "Should we continue the questions?" Kaveri looks at him. Yeah, I want more. Kaveri asks him, "Say your name one more time." And he goes, "I am Father Gideon, Paladin of Faria, Conduit of Divinity. Gideon the Unworthy." The body sags again slightly, the runes losing a little bit of power with each question, it seems. Kaveri gives you all this knowing look of like, if you have anything, right now's the moment. She does look at you harder, Laura. Like, don't ask stupid fucking questions. You very much can see the, like, don't waste my time here, please. But you are given a chance to ask some questions to this man's form. Whether he's alive or dead is kind of unclear in this moment. You've never seen magic like this done.
Mitra kind of looks at Lara for a moment, and then she looks at the paladin. She's seen weird stuff, but everything that's happened in the last like kind of month or so is just the weirdest shit that's ever happened to her.
Yep.
And it's just like at this moment, especially with like Kaveri just being right there, it's like this is just such a surreal moment. And she's like, what happened at the train?
Another long, easy sigh, his lungs filling with air. The paladin's mouth begins moving again. He says, "I defended the weak, the oppressed. I furthered. You hear a stumble, and for a moment, his face twists and contorts. You see fear and panic in it. I saved those I could, or tried. I don't know how much more I can do. There was an attack to the north in my home. During the attack, you see that body sag again, the weight of this magic seemingly fighting to keep him conscious, to keep him moving. I was chosen by Farrier, but I am not strong enough to contain his light. The damage is unquestionable, but I do what I can. I slayed hundreds of the enemy. I felled even the greatest. You saved me. The body falls slack slightly again, waiting for another question.
The implications are just very slowly getting to it now. Like home to the north. A paladin of Feria. Like it's just beginning. It's like building blocks. Just like yeah, I got a third one up there. And she's like, home to the north. What's the name of your home?
He sighs, and you actually see his eyes open, and there is still burns all around the sockets. Like the eyes themselves are nearly destroyed. They're snowblind, and covered in these kind of scaly burns. You could see him like searching, looking for something, and he can't get to it. Kaveri at this point very quietly, like almost imperceptibly quietly says, I don't think the man is still there. I think... I don't know that he'll wake up from this, and I don't know that he really knows much more than the events of the last few days. He seems damaged, both mentally and physically. Even I don't think I can save him. Mother Nalini has already given up. I'm just trying to pry what I can from a dying man.
Mitra is just like, and her gaze turns to Laura, and
I would also say for you guys, you're much further north than Whitespire. That
Yeah.
Rima is already far to the north. So this guy's talking about going to the northern expanse as far as you could fucking go, basically.
okay,
So whatever he's talking about is certainly not the Temple of Farrier in Whitespire. This is far away.
Yeah.
okay, cool, makes sense. Mitra will look at Laura and says, "Well, you needed to speak to him. Doesn't seem like we have long. So
So she did want to ask him stupid questions, like
He
protecting
did
him.
what I was gonna say.
But
Nice.
she got the look first, and then he said that he's from the north, right?
Yeah.
And I can only assume that Laura has never seen this guy because she's been to Whitespire.
Yeah, you lived in
and
Whitespire your whole
a
life.
few times, so she's not seen him. So she already knows that she's not gonna get the answers she seeks from this guy. So she will, hearing that he's from the north, just let go of him, and just quietly get up and walk out. She doesn't really care about everything that's being said. She just
You're
wants
just
answers
amazing.
for her own story. But
Kaveri gives up, Kaveri doesn't give up on staring at this guy. Like, you guys are moving about, asking your questions, getting yourselves acquainted with the space. Kaveri is standing at this man's side, very pointedly waiting her turn to speak. She asks, what is a conduit of divinity? And the man's body tightens again, burping another large breath. He says, conduits are those who are chosen by the gods. But to be a conduit, you must be of sufficient strength. Anyone can hold a god for a time, but the cost is great. For me, it was too much. And you see Kaveri, like, the wheels turn, and she's like, oh, fuck, okay, I get it. I get why this man is dying, no matter what I do to him, no matter how much I give him care, give him food, give him water, medically take care of him, or magically take care of him, it's not working. You see all those gears click into place for her. She kind of looks at you, Mitra, waiting to see if you have another question, but you can tell now the magic in these runes around him is nearly at failure.
When you were attacked on the train by the Riftborn, what happened just before that?
His eyes search again for something unseen in a place far away. The voice rings out once more in this small interior space. He goes, we had ridden for 2 days, they were attempting to make it back to the capital. I just wanted to go to Whitespire, to ask the temple what to do with my power. Someone on board finished scribing a rune and told them where we were. Someone hunting me. The enemy. And he starts to repeat the enemy over and over, and you start to hear the bones in his teeth clicking together as the body starts to tighten, the rigor mortis setting in. He just keeps saying the enemy until the teeth are clasped shut. The body is seized and completely non-functional, but the tongue and the mouth is still trying to say the enemy over and over. Finally, the runes flare one last time, and the body sags back into the carriage floor, seemingly dead.
Mitra is startled by this revelation, at least. Not that startled. She's aware of the cultists that actively make efforts to bring the Riftborn in. She looks at Kaviri and then asks, "What do we know about those that commune with the Riftborn?"
Kaveri searches for a time, looks you very like she's so much shorter than you, being a Dwergar, these deep dwarves. She looks all the way up at you with this kind of anger and bristling hate that it dies back down. You can tell she's very begrudging to give you anything, especially because of your size. But she goes, "From what I know, there are a group of people who seek to bring the Riftborn to every corner here. And most of them hide among people. They live normal lives, keep kinship with their friends and peers, and they feel a devotion to them, the true Riftborn, She struggles to find a word before settling on God. These gods to them, they're bound by oaths. They seemingly pursue positions of power. They try to get as high as they can and infect as many minds as they can to further their own purposes. And every time we've ever captured one, they die within the day. It doesn't seem answers can be found for these people, nor reasoning why. Kaveri takes a hard look at you, Mitra, after saying that and letting the words trail off into the awkward silence as you stand in this carriage with a corpse. She looks at you, and the eyes flash a kind of deep, sickly green for a moment. She kind of grabs one of your arms and tries to spin you. Do you allow it?
It's like the height difference might be there, but she very much still feels like the child she was when she first saw Kaviri.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's like a bygone conclusion. Like,
you're spun heel to toe. Your face facing the door now, the exit. And you're expecting to feel like her shove you out after giving you some information like she did before. But you feel, or rather you hear, a small stool is drug across the floor, and then you feel her hands along your back moving the clothing. She lifts the covering on your back and moves the black eye out of the kind of rough backpack shape you've given it now. She kind of makes you unshoulder it and get it out of the way. You feel her hands along the wounds that dot the upper part of your shoulders and back. And she goes, "You're marked." She kind of turns you again, pulls up one of her sleeves, the hand that's missing the fingers, that arm, that left arm. Her entire left arm is covered in marks very akin to yours, though the will and intent is very different. I won't explain what yours say. You know, the others do not yet. But you discern Kaveri's tattoo's meaning fairly quickly, having grown up at least most of your life with these Hearthfinders. The runes that cover Kaveri's arm talk of knowledge and power no matter the cost. It's a very, very complex rune. It makes even yours look simple and elementary, but her entire left arm is enwreathed in these almost... They look like a tattoo, but they're infected. They look right on the verge of festering or rotting. But her entire left arm is covered in these runes, and you can see the discoloration of skin, and there's still drops of blood like they're fresh. Kaveri looks at you and goes, "I don't know that anyone else here is marked. You've truly seen her, haven't you?"
It takes her a moment to marked? What? Then it's kind of like, when she says you've seen her, it's like such a vivid recollection. She's just kind of like lightheaded for a moment, and she's like, Yes. Yes, at the train. After, well, while, while it was happening and after it happened.
You could see her, she's like fighting between, okay, mutual respect, something is there. Some actual thing of like, okay, we both had this interaction, and the usual Kaveri, I don't want to give you a damn drop of information. She goes, I've had these for 10, 15 years now. And I think they change who you are, how you are. When I saw the lady, and as she says the lady, you hear her like physically gag, like it's like a choked word to come out of her mouth. She exuded terror and pain, but guidance and strength. And as she flexes her arm and kind of clasps a fist to find strength in the words, you can see like that ink spill out of these almost rotten tattoos that cover that arm. I thought I was the only one. I don't have advice for you, Mitra. I hope only that your runes mean better than mine. And for the first time, you see regret on Kaveri's face. Like, this person was normal once, more than likely. That this obsession, this compulsion is not hers, never has been. You finally realize that this woman is on the verge of possession at all times. Like, she can't control herself. She has to be. And it's almost sad. Almost. You see a fear and a regret in her eyes. But then eventually it slips away. You see a hardness reappear behind them. She rolls the sleeve back down, and if there's not anything else, I'll just bury this one.
Mitra's almost at a loss for words. It's like such a dramatic shifting of the person she knew. Not that it immediately changes physiological responses to it, though. Not that it changes things like that, but yeah, definitely. There's she's never not respected her, but it's like this respect's in a different light now. Mitra just nods and says, okay, bye. It's very awkward. It just like tries to cover everything up again. And she gives Kaveri one last look before she leaves the caravan, and maybe for a few seconds it's a bit of aimless walking before she's like, I should check in on Laura, and maybe Alton, he needs to know what's happened.
Laura, where did you leave to after the failure?
After like leaving, she would literally be sitting like against, like next to the door outside.
Yeah.
Just sitting down, like thinking and staring out into space.
You see Mitra emerge from the inside of the space and kind of step out, wandering around, seemingly not noticing you. You hear Kaveri start to curse in Dwarvish and then slam the door and lock all 7 locks again. You two are left to your lonesome on the front porch of Kaveri's caravan.
I mean, I guess it takes her a moment. She begins walking off before it's kind of a case of what something feels weird. And then she'll turn around and see Laura there. And then she'll kind of stand there and say, Laura.
Yeah.
She opens her mouth to speak as if, like, she wants to speak, talk about what happened before she stops and catches herself and says, why don't we just return to the tent?
Yeah. when Laura will slowly get up, seeming like in stature and in walking just like a bit weak, like also mentally just not completely there. Um, but she will walk behind you, just kind of stare at the floor while walking.
As you guys walk back to your tent, you see a few of the defenders of the hearth have taken the body now and kind of moved it away of the fire tender. They've taken it and they're going about trying to wrap it up and bury it as they normally would, their usual way. Though they are having a bit of trouble considering the state of it. But you guys arrive back at your tent. Alton, I assume you've been sitting and waiting for a while.
Depends on how long that took, because he probably would be going to still try to get either that rock.
I mean, you were given the rock already, but you're just expected to come back and get the
Yeah,
tattoo
I mean
done.
that's what I mean. That's where he'd be. He'd be going to
And I
make
mean,
sure he pays
no
his
more
debt.
than no more than an hour or so has passed, probably. So you still have some time before the end of the cycle.
Is he able to make a tattoo gun?
Go ahead and roll me some Arcana.
Okay. Nope.
What's the total?
Well, 8 total, but it was a natural 1.
Okay. You spend some time trying to kind of use the trick you've learned with the mag knife to make something akin to it with a actual needle. You're close, but it's going to be a while before you can get that ironed out to be a permanent fixture. And even then, you mostly just have the downward motion. The upward is giving you some trouble. But maybe in the future, you'll be able to work out a true tattoo gun. You guys come in and see Alden sitting in the tent, kind of playing with a needle that's floating in the air, a strange shimmer of purple around it.
Didn't say
So, wait, sorry, what?
So he doesn't say anything. He's just still
Yeah,
trying to figure
everyone
this
is.
out. Doesn't even pay attention to you guys walking in.
She walks in. She sees Alton seems busy. She says, we've returned.
Oh, hello.
What are you doing?
Well, so your tattoo friend, traded me for the stone I need. But he wants to try out a new tattoo technique. I'm not so sure I want to do it. So I'm trying to create a thing that'll help him make giving those tattoos a little easier on folks around here. Maybe not hurt so much.
Or what if it breaks? Then he would not have his practice.
And he can always go back to the old way, I guess, but I mean, I'm hoping this will be enough to pay that debt off to where I don't have to get a tattoo. I'm close.
Okay.
In time, I might be able to get it to work.
Alright. Well, she removes the gem and places it beside Alton and says, well, if you need some more time to work on whatever it is, perhaps I can go and see him. I have business to attend with him anyway. And I can let him know you'll be by later.
No, that's okay. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to get this done in the time frame that he needs, so I'll go with you and I'll talk to him myself about it. Unless you want to be alone.
It's less that I want to be alone, and it's more of I don't want Laura to be alone. Please.
Okay.
Had things happen. Perhaps she can speak to you about it, if she wishes.
Sure.
And of course, I trust you to look after her.
Of course. Just let him know I'll be back as soon as you return.
Of course. Shouldn't be that long then. She looks the two of you over and says I'll arrange for So I wanted to bring you food. I know we didn't quite start the day right. And then she tends to leave.
Shortly
I would
after,
say,
Laura will leave as well.
okay. I would say for you, Alton, the first thing you would notice is Mitra enters in normal Mitra barbarian smell. But when Lara enters, you just smell burnt, like someone who's been around a campfire, but then also like a strange sickly sweetness at the end of that smell that tells you something was burned, not just wood. But Lara ends up leaving shortly after Mitra, not saying anything, leaving you to your lonesome again, to your studies.
Is she following?
Oh no, she's not following.
So she just returns to the tent and leaves us round faced. Okay, great. Alright, sorry, please continue.
Lara, where are you headed?
The dwarf for my new weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, if Laura leaves,
Yeah, the
like,
werewolf.
Alden's going with like.
Okay. You pick up the heavy black eye stone, kind of carrying it like a, I don't know, like a small boulder for you.
Yeah.
You guys trudge through the camp wordlessly. You arrive at the dwarves' tent and his cart and everything else, the blacksmith setup. Laura, you enter the establishment, the inside of this one cart, and there sits Fair and the Fat, the dwarven blacksmith. If you're looking for that thing we talked about, I haven't found anyone yet, but eventually, hopefully, if I get lucky. He gives you a hard look. He's like, did something happen to you?
Yeah.
He reaches off to the side and you see him like digging through a side pouch. He's like, are we in danger?
No.
Then, do you need something?
I need weapons. I need.
You look like you need a drink. He reaches off to that side pouch that he was digging through before. He pulls out a couple of iron cups and then reaches down below the actual kind of small. It's almost like a front desk inside this cart. He reaches down and pulls up like a small hogshead of ale, slams it down onto the counter and goes, "Best I can do is get you drunk, but you seem like you need it."
See, is there like actual place to sit down?
Yeah, the inside here is a fairly large space. Luckily, the pack animals that you guys have used before, the deep rothe, they're big. Big enough to pull these kind of heavier carts that are almost like small building. And I do mean small. They're still shack sized, but they certainly are fairly large. There are a couple of stools at the front where someone could sit. And he goes, "It may not be the nicest bar in town, but it is the bar in town."
She will sit down and look at Alton and not say anything for about 30 seconds. And then look at the actual dwargar. Yes, I wrote it down.
Regular old dwarf, not a dwergar.
What? You said he was a dwargar.
I don't believe I did.
Okay, well, in any case, he's a dwarf.
Kaveri is the only dwergar you guys have seen
Oh,
so
right,
far.
Yeah. Okay, so she will look at the dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll just wait for him to, put in the drink.
Yeah, he fills your drink pretty quickly. No hesitation from him.
And she'll just take a sip, and after the sip, it'll seem like at least for Alton, it will seem like the first time that she is actually kind of calming down. Like, instead of sitting like this, the shoulders will kind of go back into a more calm state. She still won't say anything. And after some time, she'll look at Alton again, who I'm sure is busy with the eye or whatever it is like that he's focused on.
No,
And
he's pretty much just kind of like hanging out, watching you do your thing, not really just being quiet, letting you do whatever it is you feel you need to do.
she'll say, I saw visions of my brother who has perished about a month ago, maybe more. I was hoping he would go peacefully. But what I saw, the fire bearer that we just buried, is my fault. I tried to say goodbye to my brother. He, um, and she'll look at the dwarf, and she doesn't really know how to say it to not make him panic. So she'll just say he was attacked by one of those beasts. He didn't make it. And now I can't sleep properly. I have nightmares every single night. And I thought maybe if I went to the fire bearers and I let my brother go into the next life, he would be better off. But it seems that instead of going to the next life, he's either still alive or not alive. But I know for sure that he's in this world possessed by something, someone, and I don't know if I have to put a stop to him or if this is some weird, like, I wish I could say that I was still dreaming and this is all part of the fire bearer's visions. I feel like I'm gonna have to face the terms that either my brother is still in there or he's not. And I'm gonna have to kill my brother. And with that, she will take more of a sip.
So,
Well, more like a big, big gulp.
yeah. Alton just kind of sits there in silence. And not any way as his, you can tell his wheels in his head are turning, trying to decipher what all was just said to him. And trying to figure out a correct way to respond to that. I don't know your brother, never met the man. It's as a man of science, so to speak, and magic. You say you had visions, dreams. My experience, magic can make people see things that aren't real.
I know this was real odd.
Not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying it could be real to you.
It was real.
Alton, as she says that, for just a heartbeat, you and Farron both hear the clanging of metal on metal, like a blacksmith's forge is active, but no one's working the forge here. You can see around you.
Doesn't necessarily know what to make of what he hears.
Farron gives like a hard look around,
Yeah.
kind of looks at her.
But as he says that, he gets the sense that, okay, perhaps it was real. Without saying it out loud. Until he, on his face, is like, looks at, what's the dwarf's name? Baron?
Farron.
Baron?
Yeah.
You have any wine?
Give me 2 seconds. And he starts rummaging through like behind the counter as fast as he can. It doesn't take him too long. He finds a skin, just a normal wine skin, and he hands it over to you. He's like, free of charge. I don't drink the shit myself.
Thanks. Just starts to drink.
It's pretty rank, but it's wine.
Best wine he's had in centuries.
Yeah, in a millennia.
Just doesn't say anything else.
Meanwhile, Mitra, you arrive at the fairly well-known tattoo artist tent, Vash. Getting inside his much larger form, he kind of goes, back to work then.
She nods. There's a bit of a pause before she stops, and of course she glances around for anyone in earshot before saying, "There have been some changes. I hope you can keep that between the two of us as kin."
His face hardens for a minute. You see, real intent look. He kind of goes, of course. There's so few of us.
She nods, and then she goes on to explain what I wanted initially was something to remember our kin by. And it's worked already. There was a fight earlier, and while I'm not familiar with them, still, they protected not only myself, but others. So, truly I thank you. She's kind of at a loss for words before she begins removing her clothing to show him the new tattoo she's gotten. And as she shows him, she says, "Of course, this is not something I could do by myself, nor did I ask someone to help me with this. It just is."
So you just want me to work around it? Then you can see he's kind of holding his breath, the almost verge of decay or infection kind of getting him for a moment.
He nods and says yes. I think it will help in things to come. There's a lot happening.
Isn't there always?
It is, but it was like keeping my. It was like all I could do from drowning to just keep on going. But now it feels like I've no time to breathe. And I worry how long I have. She shakes her head and says, but I'm ready to continue if you are. My friend,
course.
the drow, said he would stop by later.
Good. I'm sure he'll be fun to work on. But I will say that we're a hardy people. A people who have taken much and given much and suffered more than most. All I can give you is protection. He lays down a scroll of actual paper, which would tell you a worth that he has put into this work. And you see a very complex design that he has envisioned of names of great warriors in your people's history, of there's a few inner circle members' names hidden within the runes, members who have long since passed now, people who were very important to your people and your people alone. They would be unknowns to the normal passerby. You see giant runes for strength, for purpose. It's a very well done design, and certainly has much more context and purpose put into it than most of his works. He does a lot of work for people just for trade, and in those works there's not quite so much love given to it, I guess. And certainly you see a matter of pride on his face as he shows you the design. He goes, I guess take a seat and we'll begin.
She nods and mentions that it is likely they'll be departing soon, so any progress, even if it verges on painful, would be welcome.
He gives a kind of hearty nod, and he looms on, if I recall, near 2 foot taller than you, so it's certainly a little jarring. You know, his tent is a large one, but still not quite accommodating for someone of his stature. And with a heavy hand, the man begins his work. He is certainly not one with a light touch, but he is talented as an artist. And I think, if everyone's cool with it, this would be a great point to wrap up our session.
I agree. Solid.